You guys seem to enjoy my review regarding the first Filipino tasting menu restaurant in Houston. And so today I am going to take you to Lumikha. It's an $85 5-course tasting menu in Houston that highlights the diverse cultural influences of Filipino cuisine while fostering community and fellowship throughout its warm hospitality. According to the website, Lumikha, which is a Filipino word that means to create, aims to go beyond creating a shared experience that blends culinary discovery with meaningful connection. If you guys want to learn more about the awesome chef that is behind Lumikha, I have another video in this channel about my conversation with Chef Bam Garcia, who previously worked at French restaurants in Las Vegas at 2 Michelin-starred restaurant Guy Savoy at Caesar's Palace, and Joel Robuchon at MGM Grand, which is the namesake restaurant of the late Joel Robuchon, which has 3 Michelin stars. He then moved to Chicago to work at Alinea, which is one of the best restaurants in the world, in my opinion. I enjoyed talking to Chef Bam and getting to know his vision for Lumikha, and I highly suggest you guys watch that video as well. In this video, we are going to dissect the 5 courses in his tasting menu and my thoughts regarding each dish. As always, a full disclaimer, my thoughts and opinions about these dishes are exactly that, my thoughts and opinions. Okay? The Supper Club is currently open on Sunday nights, and you can reserve your experience by going to their website at www.lumikha-htx.com. It's also important to note that this video is not sponsored by Lumikha. I paid the $85 myself so that I can give you guys my honest and unbiased review. After securing your reservation, they'll send you the address and the instructions. Basically, things to expect on the day of your reservation. And at a certain time, a representative will escort you from the lobby to where you will be dining. So, without further ado, let's get into this review. The Lumikha studio seats 10 people. And of course, I sat down at the center so I can show you guys the best view, overlooking the kitchen. And as soon as I sat down, I was served the first drink of the night, which is a non-alcoholic sparkling lychee. Tropical fruits like lychee or lychee is what they call it here in the US sometimes. It reminds me so much of the Philippines. I loved that Chef Bam chose lychee as the first thing you taste in this culinary experience. I'm such a fan of the fruit, and the fact that it's sparkling made the whole experience festive. I may just pick up some sparkling lychee from the grocery store now that I'm thinking about it. Then, after the general manager, Dan Estacio, and Chef Bam introduced themselves and talked about their vision for Filipino cuisine, we were handed towels that were scented with sampaguita. And if you guys don't know what sampaguita is, it is the national flower of the Philippines, and it's also known as Arabian jasmine. At this point, I was already smiling. The smell took me back to my childhood, and it reminded me so much of churches and random streets in the Philippines where I remember people, even kids, selling them. As I was washing my hands with a towel, the sampaguita smell lingered in my hands. And of course, this was intentional because the first course was broken down into 2 amuse-bouche pieces that is served over a flower ceramic plate. It was paired with dry white wine. The first one is vegetarian Kinilaw. It's braised turnip that's marinated in coconut vinegar over a crispy rosemary cracker topped with black truffle caviar. I think it's an interesting take on Kinilaw, which is typically served with fish. The turnip was mildly sweet, which I loved because personally, I'm not a fan of the taste of raw turnip. But the coconut vinegar was able to mask that and gave it a new flavor profile. And because of the crunchy texture of the cracker, paired with the smooth and creamy texture of the caviar, I think the flavors worked well together. Because you eat it with your hands, you can also still smell the sampaguita scent in your hands. And I gotta say that this has the Alinea stamp written all over it. Was this my favorite course? Absolutely not. But it was definitely the perfect first bite to start my dining experience at Lumikha. The second type was Kinilaw na baka or beef kinilaw. The beef is mixed with shallots and chives and it's tossed in black garlic aioli. It's made with coconut vinegar and it's served over pandesal tartlet. And it's topped with salmon roe. In my notes, I wrote 100/10. This was inspired by Kilawin and it was definitely an elevated take on a Filipino classic. The beef melted in my mouth and all of the savory notes worked well together. I also loved that the tartlet was crunchy and was a great vehicle for the beef. It was well seasoned and definitely a great bite. I want to make sure that I'm transparent with you guys, so I have to say that I don't understand why he described it as a pandesal tartlet. Pandesal, in my opinion, as I'm sure many of you guys will agree, should be soft, pillowy, and huge. And it should not be crispy as a tart. I very much enjoyed the bite. I just don't agree with how it's called. Moving on to course 2, we have Tapsilog. It's beef sirloin marinated with soy sauce and calamansi, or as we Filipinos call it, toyo mansi. It's served over yuca, which Chef Bom described as something that would emulate the rice. Then, it's topped with sunny-side-up quail eggs and grated black truffle. The beef was tender and marinated to perfection. I love that he used quail egg, not just because the small size made it fit perfectly on top of the beef, but because it added a richer flavor because of the larger yolk proportion relative to its size. This was also one of my favorites in the tasting menu. Course 3 is called Bicol Express. The dish is created with multiple layers and textures, with the bottom layer being crispy pork belly lechon tossed in bagoong. Then you have a half-cooked large scallop, some mushrooms, and a slightly spicy creamy coconut cream sauce. I gotta say, this was my favorite course in the tasting menu. Bicol Express is already one of my favorite Filipino dishes, and this elevated version also hit the spot. The crispy texture of the pork belly complemented the soft texture of the scallop, and then you get the salty flavor from the bagoong, the heat from the chilies, and the coconut cream. Come on, who wouldn't love that, right? The only thing I was asking myself at this point was, where is the rice? Seriously though, I'll give this a 10 out of 10. For the fourth course, we have Kare-Kare. If you haven't had Kare-Kare before, well, why? It's a Filipino dish that is typically made with oxtail, beef tripe, or even beef short ribs. I usually like to make my Kare-Kare with crispy pork. Chef Bom's version is inspired by the marine life of the Philippines. He served his Kare-Kare sauce with octopus that has been sous vide for 24 hours. Then it was braised and fried, but once you taste it, it's not overcooked. This dish highlights Chef Bom's skills and mastery over his craft. It is served with eggplant and microgreens. The consistency of the sauce was perfect, and I love the addition of the Thai chilies, which made the dish a little spicy. With this being the final savory course though, I do wish that the serving was larger, but I also still enjoyed this dish. Finally, to close the tasting menu, we have the dessert, which he named the ube. It's created with fried plantain chips, candied pistachios, ube cake, roasted white chocolate, and shaved frozen strawberries. And then he finished it off with asin tibuok. The roasted white chocolate added another depth of flavor to the ube cake that we all love. I like that the fried plantain chips was not salty because it would have added too much salt to the dessert with the addition of the asin tibuok at the end. I gotta say that the star of this course is the roasted white chocolate. The ube is something that was not out of the ordinary for me. However, I do appreciate the different take on a classic. And before I know it, the 2 hours is over and the dinner service is done. There are only 10 guests and you're all seated very close to each other. By the end of the service, I was able to get to know the people who were dining with me. We're even friends in social media now. When I was looking at people's reviews about Lumikha, each one of them said that they walked out happy and satisfied with the full experience, and I couldn't agree more. Lumikha is not the only progressive Filipino tasting menu in Houston, but I do believe that it offers the cheapest one. If you haven't had Filipino food yet and you want to experience a modern and progressive approach to Filipino cuisine, for $85, you'll have the ability to taste 5 courses that was created by Chef Bam himself, from start to finish. Filipinos eat rice 2 to 3 times a day, and it's such an integral part of our diet. I loved my dining experience at Lumikha, but if there's one thing I wish was different, it is that I wish at least one of the courses featured rice. I understand that creating tasting menus aren't cheap. It requires a lot of thought process, skill, and technique. And in the standard pricing of tasting menus, $85 for 5 courses is already a bargain. So my request is that it doesn't even have to be an elevated version of a rice dish. I would have been very happy even with just plain jasmine rice, so that I would feel satiated at the end of the meal. I left Lumikha feeling happy and inspired to create more Filipino dishes, and Chef Bam's culinary experience was apparent throughout the whole experience. I just wish I left not needing to eat afterwards. Based on my review, would you ever want to dine at Lumikha? Let me know in the description below. If you like to watch more of my review videos, I have a video about my thoughts regarding Houston's first Filipino-inspired tasting menu restaurant, and you can watch that video over here. Alright, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!